Wiglaf watches sadly in the fading light of day as Sabine and his wife and children pack up their belongings and slowly together head out of Red Hall, planning to travel somewhere else in the Havens and get away from this area where they have lived all their lives, to get away from Duskmoor. For even though Kova is dead, Duskmoor is still out there. They might still be a raiding party, a faction that's trying to conquer things. There's still a death cult out there, and Sabine just feels he can't remain in Longhaven anymore. So they bid farewell, and they take to the road, and they head north into the warmer, quieter, hopefully safer parts of the Havens. Meanwhile, the light is fading, and Wiglaf is just back from his adventures, and he decides to take Griff back to his cabin. Everything's been shut up there for days, and they're going to go in there and air it out and clean it up and take stock of some of their supplies. They grab some supplies and food from the hunting lodge, and they head to the cabin for the night. Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is Ironsworn Antarctica. In our last session, we didn't do all that much. It wasn't a super long session, but we did finish some parts of the story. We managed to get reasonably safely, although we had to burn some momentum to do it, back to Longhaven, where we were able to fulfill our vow to save Leo of Longhaven from the cursed doll, and that doll has been burned now, and the curse was broken, and we got a strong hit on that vow, which got us some experience, and then we forged a bond with Leo, who now is starting to believe Wiglaf about the fact that he didn't murder his friend. And then the next day we went to Red Hall. It takes most of the day to get there, and when we got to Red Hall later in the day, we told Sabine that we had killed Kova, which is the vow we made to stop Kova's warmongering, and we got a weak hit, which meant that although we were successful, we weren't entirely successful, and my interpretation of this is Sabine thanked Wiglaf for killing Kova. He does feel like maybe it's a little safer here, but because Duskmoor is still there, and there are still many trained fighters there, far more than there are wardens to protect the area, it isn't safe, and so he and his family are leaving this area, and they're going to try to find another safer settlement far, far away from Longhaven. And that means that one of the bonds that Wiglaf has forged, which is this bond with Sabine, is probably not going to be able to come into play, whereas the other bonds we can still use because we have them and they're in this area. So let's take a look at our player character. We don't have any real progress tracks set up yet. We're at 7 momentum. We have 4 health, 5 spirit, and 4 supply. And Wiglaf is heading back to his house. We've spent some experience. So we have another asset, Wayfinder. When we undertake a journey, we can take +1 momentum on a strong hit. And if we happen to burn momentum, we can also take +1 momentum after a reset. And I do want to point out, we do have 1 unspent experience. So if we can get 1 more experience, we can upgrade one of our assets. If we get 2 more, we can get a new asset. But I think what I probably want to do is work on some of these assets. I'd like to get this second tick here, and I'd also like to make Griff loyal, and I'd like to work on Outcast a little bit so that when we sojourn, we can re-roll any dice. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of sojourning, we've gone back to the house. We know that we have to go and look for our father, but I think Wiglaf is going to take a day or two and rest here. And he's also got to get some more supplies and that sort of thing. And so the way this works is rather than rolling on the sojourn table, we can actually just wait a day or two and gain stuff, right? We can, in a friendly settlement, which absolutely is the case for Red Hall, this is where we live, we can recover 1 supply, 1 spirit, or 1 health per night. And so this is basically, there's sort of a cost to this, right? If we sojourn, we can get more than this back, but we have to make a roll. We could also do it immediately. We could spend one evening here, make a sojourn roll, and get everything that's over here on the hits, right? But I feel like it doesn't make sense that you have to make a roll when you're in your house. You should be able to find supplies in your house. You should be able to heal up in your house. And, he's got dog food and stuff for Griff in his house. So it doesn't really make sense here in Red Hall to me to roll to see if we can find supplies in our own house. To me, that doesn't make sense. Maybe I'm crazy, but at least that's the way it works for me. The penalty of automatically getting one supply, getting one spirit or uh, one health, right, which is lower than you would do if you were sojourning, right? You can choose two from the categories, right? And if you look, you can get +2 spirit, +2 supply. You can get momentum, right? You can't do any of that when you're using this house rule, but you are getting it for free without having to make a roll. The disadvantage is it takes time. So Wiglaf isn't really in a rush. We know we have to go out and avenge the father's death. And we've got to figure out what's going on with the death cult. But it doesn't seem like a single day or two is going to make a difference. So if you're not in a rush, you can just stay in your house for 15 days or something and get all your health, spirit, and supply back. So what he's going to do is he's going to stay here for a couple of days and just rest. He's going to talk to Nan and his wife, Owena, and kind of recover in Red Hall. And so we're going to reset our supply and our health back to 5. And um, then he's going to set out. And remember that what we're trying to do is get to the Spire of Iron. So I've redone the map a little bit, and it's basically the same map. I zoomed in a little bit and I changed a couple of details. I made a real island in this lake. I labeled the lake. Also, I labeled this river. I randomly rolled it. It's the Forgotten River, and we're going across the unknown plains from Red Hall. What we're probably going to do is go to Longhaven and strike out from Longhaven because that makes the most sense. And then what we're going to do is head across the plains to the Sundered Lake. So now, by my rules of traveling, if you look at the moves for undertaking a journey, 5 to 10 hexes is troublesome. So this is still a troublesome journey. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 hexes, right? So if it was out past these trees in the Sundered Lake, it would become a dangerous journey. But right now, it's just a troublesome one. And so Wiglaf is going to set out and he's going to head there. I also, because this is a formidable quest, and there are going to be some tracks, right, for this vow, I actually labeled, instead of what I've been doing with the other ones, where if something happens that I say, I feel like this is a milestone and I add to it, I actually think there's a pretty clear set of objectives here. We have to get to the lake. There's a monster in the lake, so we have to cross the lake somehow. I don't know what the monster in the lake is. We're going to have to find the spire on this island, right? It looks small on the map, but each hex is 30 miles. So this is a map this is an island that's several miles across, right? Maybe 5 miles across. We're going to have to find the spire on there somewhere, enter the spire. Once we're in the spire, we're going to have to find the Ritual of Radiance, which is probably engraved on an iron altar in some spot in the Spire of Iron, or maybe engraved on the walls or something. We're going to have to copy that ritual down. Then we're going to have to find the husk. That's going to be the hard part. Invoke the ritual before we fight him, then kill him, and then return to our mother with the news that we have killed the murderer of our father and actually our own uncle. So I would say, I guess here, kill Valeri. I'm going to put a question mark, or maybe, possibly, I don't know if this is going to be possible, free him from the husking that happened to him, right? So whatever evil spirit has him, maybe we can free him if there's something else controlling him. I don't know what we're going to find when we find Valeri, right? So we'll see. But one way or another, we need to get revenge. And right now, what Wiglaf wants to do is kill Valeri, and I suspect we're probably going to have to do that. So that gets us all caught up, and we know that we're going to go on undertaking a journey. So 2 days go by. It was the 13th of September, so we spend the night of the 13th and the night of the 14th in Red Hall, in the cabin, hanging out with Nan and Owena, eating Owena's wonderful cooking and so forth. And Wiglaf goes out and maybe brings down a deer or something to bring some meat in and contribute to the cabin. I'm not going to make any rolls for that because this isn't really part of the story. We're just sort of narrating the time that has passed. This is the downtime. After that, Wiglaf then returns to Longhaven. And then, so he's going to leave Red Hall and he's going to go from Longhaven and he's going to cross the bridge and head to undertake his journey. And so this is a troublesome journey, so we only need about 3 waypoints. So kind of here and then maybe here and then here we get to the end. So we're setting out from Red Hall, which is a place that we have a bond. And so we're going to get +1 on the first move. And let's remember our asset, right? Which is that when we undertake a journey, we can take +1 momentum on a strong hit, and if we burn momentum to improve our result, we can take +2 momentum after the reset rather than +1 because we if we get a strong hit. So if we burn momentum to get a weak hit, we get +1 momentum. If we burn, so we'll go from 2 to 3. If we burn momentum and turn it into a strong hit, we go up to 4 momentum. So I think tactically, what I would probably do here is almost not. Well, I think I probably don't want to burn momentum to get a weak hit. If I can burn it to get a strong hit, that's what I'll probably do. At least that's going to be in the back of my mind, right? And we have right now 7 momentum. So we're going to go to our progress tracks. I've already set up the journey to the Spire of Iron, and it's troublesome, right? And so what we're going to be doing is undertaking a journey. So Wiglaf leaves Red Hall, goes back to Longhaven. It's going to be like another day to get over. Like at the end of the day, he's crossing the bridge to go out into the wilderness. We're not going to stay in Longhaven. He says hello to people. He notices that a few folks are maybe not so unfriendly to him, right? Mila waves hello and says hello to him. Leo claps him on the back. He's got a bond with Leo now. And the other people in town, I still eye him a little suspiciously, but they are starting to hear that he's done some things now. He's saved people from um, Duskmore, including Sabine, who must have told his story, or his story has been told around town. He saved the people from Highmount, and that story's got to have gotten around town now. And now he's saved Leo. So obviously this is rumors. There are no newspapers. There's no media that tells objective truths. Rumors are getting around. People still aren't sure about him, but they're not as completely convinced that he's a murderer and unredeemable as they were before. So he's not getting the same dirty looks. He does not have a bond with Longhaven. I feel like he's going to have to do quite a bit more to get that bond. Although I think that if we do more for Longhaven and we start, especially if we get a bond for Longhaven, we're going to get some more ticks on this background vow. Even though it's not really teaching us anything about Grendel. We're also going out into the wild now. It's possible we might meet either Grendel or a mini Grendel if we get like some sort of matched misses on things, but not right near town, I don't think. So all of that is to say we're going to start undertaking our journey, and we cross the bridge and we head off into the wilds with our loyal Griff as our dog, and Griff's tail is wagging and he's better now. And so now we're going to roll at +1 because we have a bond from Red Hall where we're starting out. We only get this on the first one, and we're rolling plus wits. So we roll +3, and we get a 3. +3 is a 6 against a 10 and a 4 weak hit. So we reach a waypoint, but we use up some supplies. So so let's first move Wiglaf. All right, so we're here. We're into this X. So we're back in the woods out here. We've crossed before, but we were going north. So now we're heading more. We're going sort of east, right toward the top of the map. Now we're going north, which is toward the Sundered Spire, and we reach a waypoint. So let's first envision using the oracles what we find. Do we want to roll a location? Let's roll a location and see what we get. So we grab the oracle dice and we roll a 10, which is a hovel. So that's a small house, right? So out in the middle of the woods, Wiglaf finds a small hovel, and we lose one supply. So let me remember to immediately do that. And the question is whether this hovel is occupied or not. Um, should we do a move and gather information about the hovel? Let's do that. So they find there's hut, a small hut with a straw roof and made of just wood, uh, and it's kind of leaning to one side, and it's got like a door with not an actual door, right? It's got like a doorway with sort of a some sort of a curtain or a drape, just a cloth doorway. And there's probably a fire pit outside. It doesn't even have a chimney inside to keep the smoke out. So there's a fire pit for cooking and stuff outside. And maybe there's a well in the back. And this is quite a ways from town. And Wiglaf and Griff approach it, and Wiglaf may not even know who this is. Maybe he's not even heard of somebody living all by themselves out here. And so Griff and Wiglaf are wary, and they decide to look. And so we're going to use Griff's sharp feature, right? We're going to gather information using his keen senses to investigate the scene, which gives us +1 to the roll. And we're going to gather information. We're going to look around this area. We're going to quietly, kind of look around, and we're going to see if we can discover, is somebody living here, who it is, and that sort of thing. So let's roll plus wits and +1. So we get +3. We roll 4 plus 3 is 7 against a 6 and a 1 strong hit. So that means we discover something helpful and specific. So we get +1 momentum from Griff and +2 from this, so we get 3 momentum. That puts us up to +10. So this is really positive. We've got really high momentum. I think there's somebody living here who's going to be helpful. I feel like that makes the most sense. Let's ask the Oracle. Either it's going to be empty but have some supplies, or it will be a helpful, friendly person who may be able to give us some supplies or something like that. So let's see. Let's ask the Oracle. Is there somebody living here? I don't know. 50-50. 42. No. So it's just a hovel. So this gives us something specific that's helpful. I guess the helpful thing is there's nobody here. So we kind of don't even have to make camp. And let's forage, let's scavenge and see if there are maybe some supplies in here that we can grab. Maybe there's some food, or there's water in the well and we can refill our water skin or something like that. So let's forage for some supplies. Roll plus wits. And we get a 6. +2 is 8 against 7 and a 1 strong hit. So we can bolster our resources. So I think this is fairly obvious. So it took us a while to get here through the woods. This is our second day out because we got a weak hit and we lost some supply. But and the supply was that it's getting warmer out, and Wiglaf drank more water than he was expecting, and Griff needed more water, and they didn't come across any streams or brooks. But the well here still has a bucket in it, and there's still clean water in it. So they use the well to bring the water up, and they drink from the well, and they refill their water skin so their supply goes back up. And so we're done with that, and we hit a waypoint. So let's go back to our progress track here, and we've reached the hovel. And we've gotten to one waypoint. So now we're going to undertake our journey again. I don't think it makes sense to make camp here because we're not camping. We're actually leaving from a home, right? It's not a camp. and we already resupplied, so it doesn't make any sense to make another move here to gain more from it, and really there isn't anything to gain. We've got 10 momentum here, which is really nice, but I'm going to be really reluctant to burn 10 momentum on undertaking a journey, because there could be something else that we needed on, so, I don't know. We'll see, because we do get momentum back with Wayfinder. It would be a really high chance to get a strong hit. So let's see what happens. So they leave the hovel, and Griffin, Wiglaf head out, and we don't get any extra bonuses, so it's just +2 here for wits. And they're going to travel and continue and try to get further. So they're going to move out of the woods here, and they move out onto the plains. And they move for a couple of days through the plains. And the question is, so I guess if we get another waypoint, they get to here, right? So let's roll our Undertake a Journey and see what we get. And we roll a 2. Plus 2 is 4 against a 2 and a 1. Wow, so we didn't roll well, but we got lucky. Strong hit. And that means we reach a waypoint. We're going to envision what it is, and then we can either mark progress or mark progress, take +1 momentum, but suffer a supply. We don't need momentum, so we're going to mark progress. So let's mark progress first so I don't forget. So we're sort of 60% of the way there. So that means that if we go back to the map, right, we're here, right? And the next waypoint will like put us there, right? And so, and if you notice, there's a little blue square around here. It doesn't mean anything, guys. I just had that selected when I did the screen grab from Wonder Draft, because I was moving the trees around a little bit to make it so that you could read the script here, the words. And I moved this tree, and it was still selected, and I didn't realize it. So it doesn't mean anything. There's nothing special at that tree, at least so far as I know. So now we're going to figure out what do we find. Let's roll the location and see what we find. But this is a strong hit, so it won't be anything dangerous. We found a waypoint. We get a 1, which is a hideout. A hideout. A hideout. Whose hideout is it, though? Could it be... Well, let's gather information and see. If it's like a miss or something, then maybe it's bad guys. If it's a hit, maybe it's something useful. Let's try gathering information again. We got 10 momentum. But I don't think I'm going to burn momentum on this. I think this is going to be... it's either going to be something helpful, a hideout of somebody helpful, a hideout of somebody neutral, or a hideout of somebody dangerous. Right? Doesn't that make sense? I think it does. So let's gather information. We got our hound with us, so we're rolling +3. 8. 5 + 3 is 8 against a 9 and a 3 weak hit. Okay, so the information complicates the quest or introduces a new danger. So I'm not really sure about that. So let's try rolling action and theme and see what this is. This is going to be something basically neutral, right? It's not going to be a friendly person, and it's not going to be cultists. It's going to be something neutral. Maybe there's not even anybody here. It's an old hideout. So let's see. We roll a 96, which is going to be communicate, and a 77. Communicate problem. All right, so here's what I think. I think this is... Maybe it's like... Yeah, I'm thinking it's something like a lighthouse, but it's on the plains. So maybe it's like a watchtower. How about it's a watchtower for the Iron Wardens? It's a watchtower for the Iron Wardens that they're not always manning, but they can man in times of trouble. And is it manned right now? I think that's unlikely because we got a strong hit on the actual move to get here. But this complicates our quest. It introduces a new danger. I think maybe it is manned. And maybe the warden is going to tell us something. So we get up to this watchtower. And so it's basically just a stone watchtower with a crow's nest kind of thing at the top. And the warden sees us coming and says, "Ho, What are you doing? Shouts down. And what are you doing out here? It's dangerous out here. And Wiglaf says, um, I am Wiglaf of Longhaven. Wiglaf the murderer, he shouts down. And Wiglaf says, I'm not a murderer. He's furious about this. Can I please come up? So the warden comes down. He opens the door, and there's like a cot in here, and maybe a potbelly stove at the bottom, and then a spiral stairway leading up to the top. And he lets Wiglaf in, and he sees the dog, and he pets the dog, and Griff is friendly and wags his tail. And the Iron Warden says, "Well, let's get a name for him, right? So who is this Iron Warden? What I'm going to do is I'll roll up all the details about him, and then I'll bring you back when I've done that, because we're getting pretty far in this session, and I'd like to try to undertake at least one more journey. So I'll be right back. All right, folks, I have created Bastien. It's actually a female, not a male. It is a woman, a female free warden, whose goal, believe it or not, I rolled this, is to defend a place, so I assume the unknown plains where Wiglaf is. Disposition is unfriendly. Descriptor, wounded and generous. So even though she's unfriendly, she's generous with her supplies. She's socializing with Wiglaf right now, and the tower is called the Watchtower of Sithra's Spectres. That's the name I randomly rolled. So I don't know who Sithra's Spectres are, but she's wounded. And the question I have, and I brought you back for this question, this is pretty close where we are now. It's not that far from the lake. Is it possible that she was wounded by whatever's in the lake, and she's going to have some information for us on what's in the lake? I think that's likely, because that sounds cool. So let's roll and see. We get a 57, so it is. So she's been wounded by whatever was in the lake. So the question is, what's in the lake? If we think about like the kinds of denizens there are, in terms of animals and stuff, there are like leviathans, but I think they live in the ocean. I feel like it might be worth generating a monstrosity. And we're going to have to figure out the challenge rating of the monstrosity and its abilities and so on and so forth. I think there's going to be a monstrosity in the lake. Well, let's ask this question. Is Grendel in the lake? I think that's very small. I think that's a small chance. I don't think it's Grendel. But let's see. We roll. No, it's a 43. So Grendel isn't in the lake. There's going to be another monstrosity in the lake, and I will kind of create that, and then I'll bring you guys back once I've figured out what the monstrosity is. All right, we're back. So Bastien is limping around, and her leg seems almost like it's numb, and she's kind of dragging it behind her. And she says to Wiglaf, so what are you doing out here? And Wiglaf kind of looks at her limp, and he says, well, are you hurt? Is there something we can do to help you? And she says, you can't help me. It's an injury from a creature, and it just seems like it has deadened my nerves. I don't know if they'll come back, but it doesn't stop me from keeping watch here in this tower. And she says, and you shouldn't be out here. The unknown plains are dangerous for lone Ironlanders. And Wiglaf says, well, I know they're dangerous, but I'm trying to get to the Sundered Lake. And Bastien pales, and she kind of sits down on one of the chairs in the room, or sits down on the edge of the cot. And she says, you shouldn't go to the Sundered Lake. There's nothing in there. It's dangerous. And he says, well, I know there's some sort of a thing in the lake, but I need to get to the island. And she shakes her head and says, no, you can't get to the island. Not unless you have some means of avoiding the Kalanect. And he says, what's a Kalanect? I've never even heard of one. She said, it's the name that the locals gave the thing in the lake. It's a giant, and here we go, guys, a giant, massive thing that looks like a crab, although instead of two claws, it has a claw and a stinger. And it has spines and antennae, and it hides in the water and ambushes, and it'll even capsize small boats. So unless you have a river barge or something really large that it can't attack, there's no way you're going to get through the lake. You certainly can't swim it. And Wiglaf says, well, I'm going to have to cross that lake when I come to it, but I need to get to the island. She says, what are you trying to get to the island for? And he says, well, there's an old ruined tower there, and I need some information that's in the tower. And she just shakes her head and says, well, I don't know about that. But I was just along the edge of the lake near the shore, and that thing, I was fishing, and I just went in a little ways to get the fish. I didn't think it would be dangerous, and that thing surged out, and I mean, it's as big across as you are tall, and it stung me with its stinger, and my leg hasn't been the same since. And Wiglaf says, well, is there anything we can do to help you? And she says, no, I don't think so. I'm hoping that over time it will heal and recover. But all I can do is warn you to stay away from the lake. And Wiglaf just shakes his head and says, well, I really can't do that. And so she says, well, that's my advice to you. You do what you wish. I've got to go back up and watch. And Wiglaf says, do you want us to watch so you don't have to climb back up the stairs with your leg? And she says, no, I can do it, because she's unfriendly. She says, you're welcome to stay here for the night if you want, but then you're going to need to leave. She's generous, even though she's unfriendly. So she goes and limps her way back up, leaning on her spear, and limps her way back up to the top of the watchtower. And Wiglaf and Griff then stay there for the night. They don't converse with her much. She watches through the night. She's got torches up there. And then when she comes down to sleep, Wiglaf thanks her for her hospitality and takes his leave of her. And so there's this watchtower here, and now Wiglaf is going to continue on his journey, and we're going to try to undertake another journey now. We still have, I think, 10 momentum, so that's good. And now we're at the point where we might be able to burn some momentum, because this should be the last step before we get to the lake. And maybe one of the last moves we're going to make this session. So we don't have a bond here, so we're only adding +2. And we undertake our journey. And we roll a 2 + 2 is 4 against a 9 and a 10. That's a miss. But I think we're going to burn. Let's use our asset, right? If we burn momentum to improve our result, we can take +1 momentum after the reset. So, back to our player character, we're going to burn momentum to burn the 9, so that it's not a miss, and we take +1 after the reset. So it's not a strong hit, but it's a weak hit. That means we reach a waypoint, which allows us to make some progress. And on the map here, I think we're pretty close to the end. We're in the woods now again. We're no longer on the plains. We've got scattered trees. It's not super dense woods. And we mark progress, but we suffer 1 supply. So it takes Wiglaf a couple of days of wandering to continue on here. And we lose 1 supply. So go back down to 4 supply. And we are pretty close to the end. So let's envision what kind of a location we come across as our waypoint. And we get a 51, which is protected. A protected area. So I think we just come to an area with some trees and maybe the side of a hill, and it's a nice place to camp. And while we're here, should we hunt? I think we're going to hunt. Let's see if we can find some food. We have our dog with us, but although unfortunately he doesn't help us hunt. But let's try to hunt and see if we can get some food and resupply, since we know we're getting ready to go into a delve. And we roll a 4 + 2 is 6 against an 8 and 4 weak hit. So we can get up to 1 supply, but lose a momentum for each. And I think that's okay. Let's go ahead and get our supply up. We'll put our momentum back to the reset level. That's not the end of the world, although I would like to have some more momentum going into a delve. We can build momentum as we go through the delve. And now we spend the night, And so it's been several days, and now Wiglaf is going to see if we can reach our destination. So we have 9 progress. So we're just rolling our progress dice, our challenge dice, and we're seeing if we can uh, enter, at least get to the lake. Have we reached our destination? And we roll a 10 and a 1. Weak hit. We arrive but face an unforeseen hazard or complication. I think it's pretty obvious. Right? We're at the lake. We see the ruined tower across the island, on the island, but skimming along the surface of the water, we see the top of a carapace and 2 multifaceted eyes peering up at us, and then it sinks below the water. So we've gotten here, but the Kalanicht knows we're here. And somehow Wiglaf is going to have to make it across to the island. But that's going to be in the next session. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I do want to point out a Kalanicht. Where did I get the name from? Kalanichtes is a genus of the blue crab. Kalanichtes sapidus is the scientific name. There's also Kalanichtes ornatus and some other ones. I'm a marine biologist by trade, so that tells you how I know that. We've got this really cool creature. Its rank is formidable, so it's going to be tough to fight. I think Wiglaf is going to try not to fight it, but he's going to have to find some way to get across the lake without getting into a battle with it. And I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I don't know if just facing danger one move is sufficient. We could make this into a mini delve to get to the delve. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Maybe undertake another journey, and he's going to have to get more waypoints to get across. So I'm not sure, and in the intervening time, I will think about how I'm going to do that. But in any case, we're now on the shore of the Sundered Lake. We've made it here. We can see the island, where the spire is. I'm not even sure what state the spire is in. We'll have to get closer and get on the island to find that out. Is it completely ruined? Is it mostly intact? I feel like it's probably mostly intact, and what we're going to be doing as we delve is going up levels. I think that makes the most sense. In fact, I'm going to say that right now. It's mostly intact, and each time we delve the depths, we're going to go up a level into the tower, and we're going to keep going up and up and up until we get to the top, which is presumably where the ritual is. But before we do any of that, we're going to have to get across the water, and some 5 miles or whatever across onto the island, and we're going to have to avoid the Kalanicht to do it. And I'll figure out how we're going to do that next time. But until then, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been Ironsworn, Antarctica.